all of our memory of the American West and the original photographs of the landscape in our country is tied to this medium. To take 150 years of art history, cultural history, I feel a responsibility to look back through all of these layers of historical events. I grew up in Columbus, Ohio. My aunt is an artist. She's a commercial designer. So I always knew that it was possible to be an artist as an occupation. And that was what I wanted to be when I was a kid.
Aki, sit. Good girl.
My dad also had a dark room in the basement, and he gave me my first camera when I was 10. It was a Nikon FM. He let me enlarge like a photo of my classmates from 35 up to like a poster size, like 20 by 24. That's how I came into the arts. My studio instructor during MFA, Tim Bradley, he was definitely pushing us all towards film, larger formats of film, historical processes. One time he presented the series of, I think it's just called Prisoners from 1910, and they were done with dry plate as a part of them being admitted. And he said, you know, you guys are all photographing your families with iPhones and digital cameras. These were prisoners, and they had these beautiful portraits taken of them. And I took that to heart, and I just loved the aesthetic of wet plate. So that's kind of what drew me to it originally. I remember my artist statement when I was in grad school saying that I wanted to have a tactile relationship with photography. And that was before I started shooting wet plate. I took a weekend workshop and I was like, oh, it's a lot of equipment, it's chemistry. I was living in an efficiency studio at the time. I didn't have any like dark room, and so it didn't seem practical. I was reaching out to different wet plate photographers still to work with them, and Luther Gerlach, he's an expert in the process. He knew everything about vintage lenses and everything about chemistry. I assisted him for probably a year. That was kind of what drew me in to actually practicing, and then finding my studio where I could live upstairs and having like an industrial space was what definitely made it possible for me to develop my wet plate practice and started a business with it. I was like becoming really excited by shooting wet plate. That was what made me want to make art. In the 19th century, you had what was called the veracity of photography, which meant that what you saw in photography was believable and reality and existed in the physical world. That because it was photography, there was no space for illusion, there was no space for fabrication or subjectivity. It was objective. Now we all have an understanding that photography can be manipulated, but I think even when looking in this process, there's this sentiment that this is reality. So that was kind of how I became interested in the illusion, visually creating a concept that was not true in a way that looked true. The work that I'm shooting now is really fantastical. Like archetypes and fairies and all of these beings kind of transcend time.
Now I have to somehow figure out how to create this type of moss for the mushroom people to like exist under, because it's so small. There is something kind of, I never thought about the Grinch and how, or I guess Dr. Seuss in general plays with scale, but like the Grinch takes place on like a snowflake. Like the whole world is on top of a snowflake.
Anytime I'm shooting wet plate, it has given me access to a lot of people and places And that's one thing that helps me just learn about people and places in general, is that way of engaging them. Okay. So let's look at what's going to be a good angle. This would be cool because you have like one in the foreground, a couple in the midground, and you can still see that balancing rock. Although it's also really nice to be able to see how it's balancing. This is actually really cool because you get little slices of how it's hanging.
It's all the real moments.
They're real.
Eating peanut butter on
Well,
the
I'm gonna put it
in the parking lot.
eat some of it before I can't
touch
use
anything
my
anymore.
hands. Right, yeah.
When I'm shooting with the big camera, it's about an hour-and-a-half setup. I am shooting with a view camera, which is basically the same style as the first cameras that were made in the 19th century. So you have a lens, bellows or a light-type box, and a ground glass on the back where the image projected onto the ground glass upside down and backwards. I have to have a darkroom on site where I have 4 different solutions in order to prepare the emulsion and develop the photo. Until I get a plate varnished and asphalted and in a frame and to who it's going to or whatever, anything can happen to it. It starts to demand your full attention. I have like a window where I can probably get 6 shots, and 1 of them will break and 2 of them will be throwaways because the exposure was wrong or I developed for too long. And then there will be this range of ones that are usable where it's like there is one that is perfect.
Are you doing like really large format photography? Wow.
Yeah, we are.
It's gonna be pretty incredible.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it turns out.
So you can just contact prep that probably, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Amazing, all right.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm gravitating towards the performance aspect of what I do because it is performative and it is something that is kind of theatrical that people can watch. The physical object of what I create falls between painting and film photography, but there is an aspect of what I do that is performative and that is site-specific and one of a kind, and that you can't reproduce it even if you're shooting video of it. So you have to be comfortable with this uncertainty that things might not work out and that you might lose something that's really important to you or valuable. I like the idea of impermanence, partly because of the purity, and I'm connecting more with me being a performance artist now than I have in the past.
I'm okay with the sun being direct. Look at that. It gets the shadow is really nice. Last shot of the day.